Morning, citizens. I went to the ULEZ demonstration on Sunday, hoping for a good turnout. And there was about 300 people there, max. 300 people in a city of, maybe 8 million people. 3 or 4 million of whom will be personally affected by this. Um, quite a lot of the people there, probably half of them, were quite elderly. Um, these are people who've got a 12-year-old Honda Jazz that has been perfectly adequate for their needs and gives them a bit of independence. They can get about and go down to the shop and go to the garden centre on Sunday, or maybe visit relatives, or maybe visit other elderly friends of theirs who don't have any transport. And these are people that are going to be most affected by this. And it was a very, very hot day, and these quite a lot of these older people were wilting in the heat, and sitting in the shade, and they come out and they try to, yeah, they've taken time on their Sunday to come out, and there was almost no support. Maybe 300 people. I mean, it was there was some organisation there. Somebody turned up with a Route Master bus and a vintage fire engine, and there were some vans that were plastered with all the stickers all over them. And as always, there was some, you know, um, earnest people. Piers Corbyn turned up, and Geoffrey Cox, who I think was a Tory but now is Reform. I think he's been dead against this, and it was. I mean, I stayed for a few hours, hoping more people were going to turn up, but nobody did. And I've stated on, numerous occasions, against my personality type, that, I believe that we will win this. But there is a caveat to that. We're only going to win if we fucking do something. And doing something means more than complaining about it on Twitter. I mean, I don't live in London, but I went to it because I know this is going to affect us all. I mean, this is not selflessness on my part. It's selfishness. I don't want this to happen to me, so that's why I'm opposing it there. You know, it's you know, it's an hour away from me, but if it goes through, it will be half an hour away from me. Yeah. Tyranny is always better organised than freedom. It's in the nature of it. Yeah, it is in the nature of it. But these control freaks are getting paid to are drawing a salary and getting paid to think up ways of imprisoning us. They don't have to spend their spare time doing that, but we have to spend our spare time opposing it, because we're not getting paid to do that. We're getting paid to do whatever else it is we're doing. So the odds are stacked against us in that respect. And you know, when I say that, you know, when I say that the people who are drawing a salary, I'm not just talking about the, you know, the faceless bureaucrats in City Hall and elsewhere in Whitehall and the Department of Transport and all the rest of it. There's not just those people. There's also the people who are doing the donkey work, who are just ordinary people. Just, you know, they either believe in it or not. But you know, they may not believe it, but they're drawing a salary, so they feel they've got to do it. You know, the people who are putting up the cameras, you know, running the wires. Um, there was a video a little while back of, um, you know, a couple of guys on a cherry picker in Regent Street, I think, putting all these pride flags up, and I think it went quite viral, this video, and the bloke was watching it, and of course they were taking down the Union flags from the coronation, and putting up these pride flags in place, and the bloke who was making the video shouted up to the bloke saying, "You're taking the wrong flag down, mate." And the bloke responded by saying, "Well, you think we don't know that?" And lots of people were, you know, applauding the, you know, the attitude of the bloke who was putting up the pride flags. And you know, I know it's difficult if you're, you know, if your livelihood depends on something like that. But I mean, for all I know, he could have just been a contractor. You know, it might not have been, that might not be his main source of income, just a contractor working for Transport for London or wherever he is, or the mayor's office or whatever. But you know, it's possible that he was a salaried employee as well. But they were, lots of people were saying, yeah, yeah, it's exactly how I feel. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's still fucking doing it. You know, he's still taking down the Union flag and dropping it on the floor and putting up one of those stupid pride flags. Now, this is the this is, you know, what would you say? This is a low level of example of somebody just following orders. I mean, I know it sounds a bit over dramatic, but that's what it is. You know, there are the, you know, the heartless, faceless types in the bureaucracy, deep inside the bureaucracy, coming up with all this shit. But then there's all the foot soldiers who are just doing their bidding. You know, go and put a load of stupid pride flags up, even though you don't agree with it. Okay, all right, yeah, all right, I don't agree with it, but I'm going to do it. I mean, this is how prisons get built. You know, and the people who say, "Well, I'm just doing my job," that's not good enough, because we know where that leads. Of course, I'm not saying these people are the same as um, the example I'm alluding to, but it is in the same, it is in the same ballpark. You know, if you don't agree with something, you shouldn't do it. And you know, taking a paycheck, taking a paycheck and violating your own moral code is, you know, that's almost worse. And of course, then there's always the argument. It's not a very good one, but one says, "Well, if I didn't do it, somebody else would be doing it." Well, yeah, that's no argument either. At least you wouldn't have been helping. No, but after just walking around for a few hours and, you know, hoping more people would turn up and they didn't, you know, I eventually left. And I very much doubt there was a march because there wasn't enough people for a march. Um, I mean, didn't see anything on mainstream media, but then that's no, you know, why would there be? In fact, it's more likely that um, they would have reported on it because of you know, the tiny number of people who were there. Based on that current showing, Khan will win. He'll get his fucking ULEZ, and then once he's got that, then he'll move on to road pricing. Every step of the way that they are unopposed encourages them to take the next step. And based on Sunday's showing, there was effectively no resistance. A token amount of people. It's almost perfect for them having that small amount of people turn up because it kind of demonstrates that there is opposition. That there is an opposition they can point to, but they can point to that opposition and see how tiny it is and say, look, well, there's always going to be somebody who complains, but they're just in a tiny, tiny minority. Now, I don't believe that there is a tiny minority of people who are opposed to this, who are opposed to having to pay £12.50 every time you go out in your car, or at least every day you go out in your car. I don't believe that. It's the implications are far too serious to be for people to be agreeing with this. But by not doing anything, they are tacitly agreeing to it. That is what is going to happen. That is how they're going to present it. And to be honest, you can't blame them for saying that. You know, there is no proper opposition. So it does look as if Khan's going to win this battle. And this is a battle that more people should have joined. More people should have joined the fray. This is going to come in just over a month. I mean, I mean, it wasn't completely unadvertised, but it was advertised as being a proper demonstration. I mean, I did know about it. Not because I'm particularly intimate with the protest. I'm not, but I did notice. I mean, it probably was a mistake to hold it on Sunday anyway, because you know people like to. It's better to have a demonstration on Saturday because you can go and you can wear yourself out on a Saturday and you have Sunday to recover before you go back to work. So I think there might have been a Julian Assange thing on Saturday, so maybe they didn't want to clash with that. But I mean, this demonstration was too small to clash with anything. There were no more people at Marble Arch than there would be on a normal day. If people just finding a nice open space to hang out. So once again, I came away from there feeling rather depressed, and I thought I'd leave it a day or two before reacting immediately, so that I didn't sound too negative. But I haven't got any more optimistic since then. This must be opposed. It just must be. This is the hill that we must must risk dying on. It's a hill that must be taken. This. This is a when I come across have experiences like that when I you just hope there's some serious resistance and there isn't. Yeah, I do feel like there's you, you can't oppose this stuff on your own. You know, 300 people can't oppose this. It has to be 300,000 people opposing it. And when this kind of thing happens, I just think, well, nobody's going to defend our society. Nobody's going to defend it at all. And I can't defend it with 300 others. And you just can't do it. It's we're going to get dismissed as cranks, and in the words of Trudeau, a fringe minority, because that's what we look like, a fringe minority. And when that happens, and I just think there is no resistance, I think, well, if nobody else is prepared to defend our society, why should I do it? Maybe I would like, if I could, I'd like to up sticks and move to one of the super red states in America if I could. It's not to say that it's not going to come there eventually, it might, but it's going to take a lot longer to get to a place like that. I just don't understand why people are so supine. I mean, we have an opportunity in this country, as we have had, you know, for millennia, in that we have an opportunity to be a holdout to all this. We're an island. We have an opportunity over places like, France and Belgium and Holland, in that we could be a resistance here would make a difference. Um, it does seem though that the thing that is the advantage to us, that we are an island, is um, is negated by the fact that we are so enmeshed in so many international things. I mean, Britain's a trading nation. And I suppose that's why we get targeted, because so many of the globalists are here. What would be nice is if we were a bit of a backwater. We wouldn't be as rich, um, although we're not that rich. But so many of the billionaires and so many of the globalists are here. And you get other things that, preening little shits like Sadiq Khan, prance about on the world stage. He's desperate to be important. He's desperate to be important. I think he's the chair of this C40 cities thing, which is all part of this globalist shit. So he's a leading light in that. So he wants, he believes that he represents London, and London must lead by example and go for net zero and all this. And his ego is out of control. Yeah, he will sacrifice the lives of ordinary Londoners to his own ego, and he'll do it because he says he's saving the planet. I had a conversation when I was there with a young woman. She was a Russian woman, and she sounds from what she was saying she wasn't supportive of the Russian regime particularly. Um, but she'd come here sort of, did she say 11 years ago? 7 years ago. Anyway, but I was standing next to this other guy, and guy who was handing out leaflets, and she said to this guy, "Well, isn't it just a good thing to be? Isn't it a good thing to be try and improve the environment, try and reduce pollution?" And yeah, and this guy and I chimed in as well. We had to sort of unpick that, and we had to kind of. She was quite receptive. I mean, she wasn't a zealot, you know, on the other side. She was just taking the rationale on its face value that it was there to, it might be difficult for people, but in the end, it was the right thing to do because of global warming, because of climate, because of this, because of that. And it took some time to sort of unpick that and just say just because they say it's about saving the planet, there's no reason why you should believe that. What is it they say? Um, the welfare of humanity is always the alibi of tyrants. And if that's true of anybody, it's true of Khan. And he's extremely arrogant. He's been re-elected a couple of times. And he knows, because of the changing demographic in London, is that he knows that as a non-white uh, mayor, as a non-white mayor, all of the people who are non-white are going to vote for him. It's sad. Perhaps some people are waking up to it, but I'm assuming. I think he's due for re-election next year. And this is coming in next month. And he's very arrogant because he knows that he's not going to get voted out because he champions all the non-white people in London, and all the non-white people vote for him. And as all the non-white people are now in a majority in London, he knows he's safe. He knows he can do anything he likes. I mean, the Tories are, they deserve their kicking as well because, they had a candidate. He was sort of okay. He wasn't brilliant. The Sean Bailey, sort of relatively youngish black guy, sensible. It's still a bit, still towing that sort of party line, but he would have been better than Khan. And the Tories didn't give him any support because they thought there was no point because Khan was going to win anyway. And and he could have won if he'd had greater support, but but then the Tories are quite happy for Khan to be there, actually, because they know that they can get the globalist plans they want, and that Khan will get the blame. And when people finally tire of Khan and get him out, all of those things will be in place, and the Tories can say, "Well, we never did it." But oh well, now it's all done. Well, it's actually quite all right, and it's it's helping in our net zero, ambitions, and well, it all might as well just stay in place now, along with all the fucking surveillance as well, which is the other thing they continue to want, despite protestations to the contrary. So on that showing, we won't win. We will lose. And Khan will win. And Sunak will win, even if he loses next time, because he'll still win, because he's of the same ilk as Starmer, who will win officially and unofficially. Starmer, who's a member of the Trilateral Commission, and all those other anti-human institutions which are destroying everything that we love. See, I wonder how different we are from the Swedes. The Swedes have Sweden has been you probably could say has been the most progressive of all the so-called free societies. They've gone further than any other society in order to sort of push those progressive goals. Greta Thunberg's from Sweden, and they were pro-immigrant and pro-net zero and all that sort of stuff. And now it's changed, and it's only changed because it got so bad. And Sweden quite admirably didn't go for the lockdowns, and they've done better than almost anybody. So there isn't, it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless, but I guess it's true. Things only have to get worse before they get better. But the trouble is, if all this infrastructure is in place, getting worse. If it gets bad enough and all the infrastructure is in place, there is no opportunity for it then to get better. Sweden's now got a right-wing government and anti-immigrant, and they haven't locked down. And but one of the reasons that I heard about Sweden and why it was allowed to go the way it is because they're already much further along in the cashless society than we are. So I don't know how that's going to pan out, but once they get their prison constructed completely and the surveillance infrastructure that goes around with it goes along with it, and it will get worse. It will get worse, but then there'll be no opportunity for it to get better. So it won't get better. It will get worse and stay worse. Anyway, do something and stay free.